my military career with me. To this day, I find it difficult to sleep much past 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I have arthritic knees, I have 2 bad ankles and a bad back, and I have a serious addiction to coffee. I love coffee. I love good coffee. I love good coffee almost as much as I hate bad coffee. Well, what does that have to do with success? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I spend my day thinking about, talking about, and writing about success. And it's always difficult to put success into terms that everybody can relate to. It finally dawned on me that everybody basically can relate to coffee, and there are lessons you can learn about success from a bad cup of coffee. For instance, consider you wake up and you decide you want a really good cup of coffee. You go down to the coffee store and you buy the best bag of coffee beans, the most exotic beans you can find. You find great filtered spring water. You go home, you get out that nasty old pot, you pour the water in, and you fill the basket up with more grounds than would make 10 cups of coffee. And you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a bad cup of coffee. Well, what's that have to do with success? How does that tie into success? Very simply. Doesn't matter how good your plan is, bad execution will guarantee that you will fail. Success lesson from a bad cup of coffee. Now, when I was a first sergeant in the Army, one of my jobs in the field was to make sure that there was always a pot of coffee going. Now, you can imagine, start a pot of coffee in the morning, one of those big party perks, and it cooks all day. By about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's some nasty coffee. Well, a soldier would come in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon needing a cup of coffee, pour himself a big old cup, grab the sugar and put the sugar in, grab the cream and put the cream. In fact, we used to have a joke, you'd ask them, do you like a little coffee with your cream and sugar? But they would fill it up, and they'd take a sip, and you could tell from the looks on their face that it was still a bad cup of coffee. So what's the success lesson in that? Very simply, no matter how you sugarcoat it, it's still bad. Another success lesson from a bad cup of coffee. Now, I spend a lot of time sitting at a computer typing. And I'll make some coffee, and even though I like coffee, every now and then I will, in fact, make myself a bad pot of coffee. Well, I'll make a pot of coffee, and I'll set it there, and I'll forget about it, and I'll type away. After a while, I'll realize I have that cup of coffee, and I'll pick it up, and what do I get? A mouthful of bad, cold coffee. Success lesson, doesn't matter how long you wait, it's still going to be bad news. It doesn't get better with age. Now, I've gone this far and I really haven't asked, how many of you actually drink coffee? Now, out of all you coffee drinkers, how many of you like a bad cup of coffee? It's universal. Nobody, there is not a coffee drinker alive that likes a bad cup of coffee. Success lesson, even the most bitter rivals can agree on something. Now, my wife and I were recently in Ohio. Well, I say recently, it was shortly after McDonald's came out with McCafe, their lattes and all their fancy coffees. So we're in Ohio, we had some place to be, we had time we had to be there, so we decided we'd whip into McDonald's, into the drive-thru, see the sign from McCafe, we like our fancy coffee, so we said, what the heck, let's try it. So we each order a big latte, put them in the cup holders, and down the road we go, because again, we had some place to be, and sometime we had to be there. A few miles down the road, I figure the coffee has cooled off enough for me to drink it. Pull it out of the cup holder, take a sip, and all over the dashboard. It was a bad cup of coffee. Now, I had a choice. I could stop the car, I could turn around, I could go back to McDonald's and complain, get my money back, or I could just keep going. Like I say, I had someplace to be, I had a time I had to be there, so keep going we did. Success lesson. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and keep on keeping on because it is what it is. Now, we all want to be successful in whatever it is we're doing. I hope the next time you have a bad cup of coffee, it jogs in your mind some of these success lessons. And I hope sometime when you're trying to figure out how you can get to the next level of that walk to success you're trying to walk down, that you think back on some of these rather unusual examples of how you can take a success lesson